Billionaire CEO discovered incredible financial wisdom in Janitor's unexpected advice. You won't believe what happened next. Alex Rosen leaned against the glossy wall of his sleek Silicon Valley office, fingers trembling as he stared at the disheartening numbers on his laptop screen. Once celebrated as a prodigy in the tech space, he was now nothing more than a figurehead teetering on the brink of failure. The whispers of investors grew louder, demanding results that seemed impossible, especially in light of the disastrous financial mismanagement that stalked his once thriving startup like a hungry predator. Anxiety churned in his gut. He felt the weight of his ambition crushing him, constricting his thoughts until he could barely breathe. In an atmosphere thick with uncertainty, he sought refuge in the dimly lit break room. It was a sharp contrast to the crafted elegance of the office, its identity starkly defined by the humble presence of Harry, the janitor. Sporting a weathered face that told stories of hard work, Harry greeted Alex with a smile, the kind that somehow managed to radiate warmth in this world turned cold. "You know, Mr. Rosen," he began casually, leaning on his mop, "real wealth comes from what's around you: family, community, not just numbers on a balance sheet." "No offense, Harry," Alex snapped, frustration flooding his voice, "but that's easy for you to say. I'm facing investors breathing down my neck. I need to focus on results, not community fluff." He cut off further words, panic gnawing at his confidence. His impeccable suits, sleek office, and accolades now felt like ironic adornments granting no solace. Days blurred into agonizing weeks of layoffs that sliced through the company like a knife. Each round sent shockwaves through the halls, the muffled cries of disconnect ringing in Alex's ears long after he turned his back. The very machinery he built was dismantling. It felt personal. Stripped of dignity, he returned to the break room once more, desperate for clarity. Harry continued his patient monologue, revealing slices of his own life with the quiet strength of a man who understood. "I've mopped floors where millionaires talk about deals every day, but I've seen them lose it all. Being good to people matters more than the size of a paycheck." The tone hung in the air, disarming. Bubbles of doubt surfaced in Alex's mind. He was beginning to question everything he had once fervently believed. Was success really measured just by profit margins? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The silent weight of impending betrayal twisted within him. Colleagues, once allies, now eyed his position with insatiable greed, the scent of ambition a potent poison. The sense of loyalty felt like a distant memory, replaced by a growing fear that he might soon be cast aside. Yet as Alex faced Harry, his guarded walls softened, unraveling the confusion that had kept him from forging deeper connections. In that moment of vulnerability, Harry revealed the raw truths of resilient stories layered with lessons lost on the corridors bathed in riches. Alex's breathing stuttered as he felt an unsettling pang of recognition, wrestling with the notion that leadership should be anchored in integrity, not mere profit. But just as he began considering this new perspective, Harry's hidden past loomed like a specter, offering a twist that would change everything. The suggestions of Harry's life, interwoven with high finance and strategy, threatened to blur the lines between their separate worlds. As they connected at a deeper level, Alex felt the gnawing panic deepen, knowing that the revelation could shred everything he still clung to. The culmination of pressure hung in the balance, and it became horrifyingly clear: could he truly reshape his company and his character before it crumbled around him? Alex sat in the break room, the fluorescent lights buzzing above him, but it was Harry's words that echoed in his mind. Each syllable chipped away at his defenses, unsettling yet awakening something deep within. In the wake of declining morale and rising tension, he felt the grip of desperation tightening its hold. He would either sink under the pressure or rise transformed. "I can't let this place fall apart," he muttered, more to himself than to Harry. Fear pushed him toward an unfamiliar precipice. Was it time to reconsider everything he had devoted himself to? Harry leaned closer, his eyes reflective and seasoned by life's tribulations. You have to know what matters before you can lead others, he said, his voice steady. Alex searched his face, seeking clarity but finding a complex tapestry of experiences instead. What did it mean to lead with integrity in a world where betrayal seemed rampant? The notion confused him. How could he prioritize human values when business often demanded ruthless calculations? Yet, beneath the layers of anxiety, he sensed a flicker of vitality, an instinct urging him to take a leap into the unknown. What did you do? He asked, trying to understand better. How did you rise through challenges? Harry smiled knowingly. Adaptation, my friend. When I was laid off from my first job, I found a way to keep going. I didn't just clean offices, I learned from them, listened, and noticed the people. Those that invest in relationships often witness their own fortunes grow. Each word reverberated within Alex, carrying the weight of truth he desperately wanted to ignore. Compartmentalizing thoughts became untenable. He felt an itching desire to connect, to genuinely understand those he led and perhaps revive the flailing company through more than mere profits. But could vulnerable leadership be his answer? Returning to his office, Alex's heart raced. He needed a plan. He opened his laptop, scanning through the numbers once more, yet this time with a different purpose. Instead of calculating losses, he began to think of ways to humanize his operations, to infuse a sense of authenticity into the structure that felt so sterile and distant. Could a shift in focus stabilize the avalanche of decline? A team meeting, perhaps, where they could share their concerns and aspirations? Suddenly, Alex felt a surge of responsibility wash over him. His role wasn't merely to dispense orders, it was to inspire a collective resurgence. He drafted an invitation to a meeting, his fingers flying across the keys, each word a promise of transparency. The tremors of fear coursed through him as he began to confront the inevitable. Questions would arise, doubts would surface, and some would challenge his vision. But faced with uncertainty, he realized he would rather be vulnerable and authentic than enter a false facade of control. With the meeting scheduled for the following day, Alex wrestled with the implications of such a shift. Would this gamble of honesty rally his team, or would it further expose his weaknesses? In one night, he felt the burden of expectation transform into a burgeoning spark of hope. Yet beneath the initial optimism lurked apprehension. The whispers of investor dissent echoed in his subconscious. Would they support a new direction, or would they view this as a further sign of his inadequacy? The uncharted waters he was about to navigate felt daunting. That night, as he lay in bed, Alex's resolve hung between fear and tenacity. A flicker of Harry's wisdom illuminated his thoughts. Reinvention could stem from integrity. But under the silence of his apprehension, deeper shadows began to stir, revelations about Harry's mysterious past began to form questions. What hidden strength lay behind the janitor's humble facade? As Alex drifted to sleep, he felt the need to confront his own fears and prepare for whatever truths might emerge next. When they assemble for the meeting, will Alex's newly forged commitment to honesty withstand the impending storm, or will he discover that there are dangers lurking far deeper? Then financial instability. As morning light filtered through the office windows, Alex felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken words hanging in the air. The meeting loomed ahead, each minute crawling by, as he pinned his hopes on the idea that authenticity could mend what had been fractured. He gathered his notes, his palms sweaty as he rehearsed phrases in his mind, striving for the right balance between vulnerability and authority. With every step to the conference room, he fought against a swell of doubt. Was honesty enough to bridge the growing divide between him and his team? Past experiences echoed the danger of showing weakness, but Harry's counsel lingered like a beacon of possibility. He took a breath to steady himself before he opened the door. The room was filled with familiar faces, each person's expression a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. He looked around, seeing colleagues huddled together, whispering low as if the air was charged with unexpressed grievances. It was time to break that tension and create a space for dialogue. He stood at the head of the table, heart racing. "Thanks for coming," he started, his voice a little shaky yet determined. "I know things have been challenging, and I want to be transparent about our situation. Together, we can find a way through this." As he spoke, he felt a subtle shift in the energy of the room, an invitation suspended in the air. After outlining the company's current state, he bravely turned to the heart of the issue. "I want to hear your ideas, your concerns. No judgment. We are a team, and it's time we act like one. Let us be real with each other." He felt the walls beginning to crack, vulnerability striking a chord that had lain dormant. His words were met with silence at first. Then, Erin, one of his most outspoken project managers, broke through, her voice tinged with anger. "You don't get to just ask for our honesty when you've never shared your own doubts. We lost so much faith in you, Alex." The accusation cut deep, but rather than retreating, Alex held her gaze. "You're right. I've kept you all at a distance. I've been scared of failure, of letting you down. But I refuse to lead that way any longer." Slowly, an electric exchange began to unfold, one person's courage sparked another's. Others joined in, each voice adding layers of complexity to their struggles. The atmosphere shifted from one of suspicion to cautious openness. They spoke of fear, uncertainty, and suggestions for change. Alex listened more than he spoke, allowing his colleagues to share their ideas freely. Each voice became a thread weaving a tapestry of shared purpose, an intricate design more fortifying than anything he could have crafted alone. Yet as passion surged, doubt resurfaced. Could he truly embrace this vulnerability without losing their respect? Vision transitioned from words to deeds, and as contributions flowed, the ghost of investor pressures loomed in the background, threatening to undermine his newfound direction. Finally, with a mixture of gratitude and trepidation, Alex concluded the meeting. "Thank you for sharing your honesty. We're in this together, and I will commit to ensuring that we build a future worthy of your trust." As everyone shuffled out, the reality of what had just occurred settled in. It might have been the beginning of a new chapter, or the precipice of chaos. Hours later, however, the glow of potential transformation dimmed when an email notification pinged. The subject line read, "Urgent, investor concerns." With his heart pounding, Alex opened the message, anticipation swirling dreadfully within him. What awaited within the text could tip the balance from newfound promise to immeasurable peril. What would the investors decide, and how might their response reshape everything Alex had just dared to build? The glow from his computer screen felt overwhelming, harsh against the diminishing afternoon light. With shaking hands, Alex opened the email, heart racing. The carriage of potential failure hung heavy in the air, as he immersed himself in the stark, sterile prose stacked against his newfound commitment to honesty and openness. "Given recent fluctuations in market performance, we seek clarity on your strategic direction. Stakeholders show increasing concern regarding leadership transparency. We require an actionable plan within the week," the message read. He felt the tight knot of anxiety claw at the edges of his composure. This was not merely an administrative check-in, it portended a rift, an across-the-board devaluation of everything he had just fought to fortify. Could he reach back into the trust he had only just begun to cultivate? The meeting had seemingly forged a fragile bridge, yet the investor's demands threatened to unhinge it in an instant. He barely had time to process before his phone buzzed with a message from Harry. "We need to discuss the funding situation. Can you meet?" After a long sigh, he gathered his resolve. Each point of feedback he received from his team shimmered like a promise unkept. They spoke of new projects and bold ideas that had burgeoned during those early moments of transparency. But could he now bring those visions, paint them with realistic strokes, and then confront the investor's scrutiny? A few hours later, seated in his office, Alex pored over the notes from the team meeting. The muted evening light cast elongated shadows over the walls as he replayed their words in his mind. Coping mechanisms, flexibility, innovation, their ideas thrummed with hope. Yet, they were merely threads still orchestrating plans that wouldn't compile into a coherent answer for the investors. He raked a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling up. What do I do next? He muttered, scrawling a list of potential pathways of action. Each idea wrestled against doubt: a new marketing strategy, aligning the upcoming launch with public feedback, enhancing transparency in broader communications. But could any of this assuage the investor's dread? After moments of agonizing deliberation, Alex felt a surge of determination. He couldn't let this situation collapse under pressure. He began crafting a proposal that would incorporate his team's input. It needed to communicate both authenticity and strategic prowess, a melding of vision that had to resonate powerfully with both the team and investors alike. He worked late into the night, the room illuminated only by the dull blue glow of his monitor. The creativity ebbed and flowed, punctuated by occasional bursts of certainty, followed by waves of self-doubt that threatened to blanket every advancement. He stepped away from his computer to lean against the window, eyes lost in the distance as he reclaimed his focus. There it was again, the image of Aaron's outrage, full of disappointment and fire. That moment bore witness to a painful truth: his growth hinged not just on his ability to articulate vulnerability but on the capacity to act decisively in the face of adversity. Determined, Alex finally returned to his desk, hands steady. Bit by bit, he threaded his thoughts into a cohesive narrative: integrity, collaboration, forward momentum, and embraced the challenge he had created for himself. Was it too late, or could they navigate this uncharted territory together? As he closed his laptop and prepared for bed, a sudden thought overran his mind: how would the team respond to a future braced against investor anxiety? Tomorrow would mark a juncture, a true test of their mission. Would the fragile bonds they had begun to forge withstand a new wave of pressure? As sleep tried to steal over him, Alex recognized the pivotal nature of the days ahead. Facing the investors was only one obstacle amid many. The real test of character, of leadership, awaited not far beyond that. Would he embrace their feedback, or would the challenges pull him back into the shadows of self-doubt from which he had only just begun to crawl? The moment of truth was approaching, and he knew with chilling clarity it would demand everything he had. The morning sun crept through the blinds, slicing rays of light across the papers strewn carelessly on Alex's desk. The remnants of the night's work were scattered like the pieces of a puzzle yet to be solved. He shook off sleep's embrace, feeling the weight of the interconnected expectations pressing down on him. This day would require clarity; he couldn't afford to project uncertainty. As he prepared for the day's meeting, the stakes loomed larger than ever. Alex paced the conference room, rehearsing the proposal in his mind, forcing himself to stay connected to the ideals that had propelled him thus far. His new commitment to honesty and collaboration was about to be tested; clarity needed to replace doubt. He envisioned standing in front of the investors, articulating a vision that would bridge the gap between uncertainties and aspirations. Harry arrived early, his brow knit with concern. "Have you had any second thoughts?" he asked, clasping his hands tightly. Alex sensed the unspoken fears that swirled between them. Distrust could creep into their dialogue if he let it. "No," he said firmly. "This is the direction we need." The team filed in, faces painted with equal measures of hope and anxiety. As they settled into their seats, Alex glanced at each of them, seeing the diverse talents that intertwined to form their collective strength. Recognizing that he didn't have to struggle alone instilled a steely resolve within him. "Today is about our future," he began, his voice steady. "It's time to demonstrate not only our strategic direction but also the transparency we've talked about." He set the stage, weaving in the threads of innovation and collaboration shared openly during those earlier brainstorming sessions. Risks, he knew, had to be highlighted along with the rewards. However, as he presented, he could see the investors' steely faces mixed with skepticism and impatience. Each probing question felt like a dagger, and with each response, doubts flared within him. Was he strong enough to hold the team's faith? "Your proposal lacks specifics. Where is the financial backing for these innovations?" A particularly sharp investor interjected, clearly unimpressed. The room fell silent, the air thick with palpable tension. Alex felt the knot of anxiety retie itself in his gut. Panic tugged at his composure, but then a realization hit him. This wasn't just about securing funds, it was a chance to cultivate sustainable relationships based on honesty and commitment. Why hadn't he woven this into his narrative? He paused, grounding himself in the knowledge that what lay ahead could transform not only their business but their interactions. "You're right," he admitted, a wave of courage replacing his initial fear. "We need to address financial specifics but also the larger vision we've created together. It's not enough to just sell numbers, we need to show how they connect with our core values." Harry met his eye, a hint of surprise mingling with approval. Alex found the rhythm of his arguments gaining momentum as he discussed how each project was backed by user feedback, market research, and the enthusiastic support of their team. When the meeting concluded, the investors began to murmur among themselves. Although uncertain of their ultimate judgment, Alex felt a shift of recognition that their journey could no longer be ventured alone. He had faced down doubt and discovered a deeper well of wisdom in embracing vulnerability, inviting them into the conversation rather than shutting them out. As the investors departed with a promise to deliberate, a sense of optimism replaced the earlier tension. The team crowded around Alex, several ideas firing off at once, invigorated by the sense of collaboration fostered during the meeting. Yet, as he basked in the confirming nods and smiles, he sensed a new challenge shaping in the distance, a competitor honing in on their market strategy, potentially initiating a threat that could upend the fragile progress they'd just established. Would his previous gains withstand the onslaught, or would the lessons he'd learned quickly dissolve in the face of renewed adversity? Alex took a deep breath, knowing that this rally was merely the beginning of a new chapter fraught with complexities. Alex sat at his desk, the air heavy with anticipation after the meeting. He ran his fingers through his hair, the reality of the potential threats looming. The faint buzz of conversations from his team in the adjoining room was a stark reminder of the collective burden they all carried. He leaned back in his chair, mentally replaying the interactions he'd had with the investors, questioning himself. Had he been too transparent? Or had he offered them just enough to pique their interest without exposing his deeper vulnerabilities? With his resolve still fresh from the meeting, Alex decided to take a walk around the building. Fresh air always helped clear his head. As he stepped outside, he squinted against the bright light of the sun, taking a moment to ground himself in the present. His thoughts drifted to his competitor, a seasoned firm known for aggressive strategies. Often ruthless, they had abandoned the principles of collaboration. Were they merely the remnants of bygone methods, or had they adapted in ways he hadn't anticipated? As he walked, Alex spotted Frankie, the building janitor, a familiar face who often greeted him with friendly banter. Today, Frankie was alone, clearing some debris from a nearby sidewalk. Alex hesitated before approaching, wondering if engaging in conversation with him, someone whose role seemed removed from the high-stakes drama of corporate life, would be worth it. Yet something compelled him to speak. "Hey, Frankie," Alex called out, surprising himself. "How's it going?" "Just another day at the grind, boss." Frankie replied with a shrug, his hands busy but his eyes twinkling. "How's the big meeting?" Alex leaned against a lamppost, letting the casual atmosphere soften his rigid armor. "Could be gone better. It's a challenging market out there." Frankie paused, setting down his tools. "You know, sometimes the best advice comes from unexpected places." "What are you offering that no one else is?" Alex raised an eyebrow, curious. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," Frankie continued, his voice steady and low. "People don't just buy products, they buy a story. If you can tell them why you care, why it matters, you've got M. Works every time, even if it sounds simple." The wisdom emanating from Frankie took Alex by surprise. He hadn't considered that the core of his narrative could be driven by a more profound emotional connection rather than just financial figures. It clicked in his mind like a puzzle piece finally finding its home. He nodded slowly, piecing the advice together with his recent revelations. "You're right. The emotional connection has been overshadowed by our metrics. I need to refocus that." Frankie smiled, satisfied by Alex's response. Just remember, it's all about building trust. People want to feel understood. As Alex thanked Frankie and turned back inside, he felt a shift. He now had a clearer path ahead. He needed to return to that core message and draw from these insights to deepen his connections both with his team and potential investors. Yet, as he formulated strategies for his next steps, Alex couldn't shake the looming shadow of the competitor targeting their market. The fragile optimism he had gained was being tested even further. Direct confrontation felt imminent, and something told him that their next move would demand not just clarity but a daring leap into unknown territories. With this newfound perspective shifting his approach, Alex felt both invigorated and apprehensive. He would need to stand firm against the tides of competition while embodying the emotional authenticity that Frankie had recommended. But could the complete transformation of their narrative be sufficient against an opponent known for their unpredictability? Alex pulled out his phone to schedule a meeting with his team, realizing that together they needed to weave their individual intellect into something larger, a unified vision that could weather any storm. As the screen lit up with a list of names, he heard the unmistakable ding of an email notification. Glancing down, he felt his heart quicken. It was a message from one of the investors, and the subject line read, "Following up questions regarding your proposal." The stakes were about to be raised once more. Would this email lead to an invitation for deeper connection or the first sign of unraveling? Alex steadied his breath, preparing for the challenge ahead. Alex sat back in his chair, the email lingering in his mind. He sensed the weight of expectation pressing down on him as he contemplated how best to respond. With each click of the keyboard, he felt the familiar tension coiling within him. This was not just a chance to clarify a proposal, it was an opportunity to connect, to bring his narrative to life, and to evoke trust. As he typed, he focused on weaving in the emotional core that Frankie had highlighted. At the heart of this project, he began to write, lies a commitment to not just success but to our shared values and vision. The words flowed more easily than they had moments before. Each sentence felt like a step further into a light he hadn't quite acknowledged before. After sending the email, a rush of uncertainty hit. Had he articulated his intentions clearly enough? Or was it another case of too much transparency? He set his jaw, letting his initial discomfort simmer. Doubts clawed at him, but he reminded himself that the process of engagement had indeed begun. With a quick glance at the clock, Alex gathered his thoughts for the meeting he descheduled with the team, aware that he needed them fully aligned. He strode into the conference room, a cautious optimism lurking beneath his professionalism. The table was filled with his colleagues, their faces reflecting a mix of interest and unease. "Everyone, thank you for being here. I'm hoping we can take a moment to recalibrate our narrative about the project," he began, his palms resting on the table's edge. "What we offer isn't just about our product. They're looking for something deeper, and I believe we need to harness that." The air buzzed with murmurs, but Alex pressed forward. "Our competitors are relentless, and if we're going to stand out in a crowded market, we have to really connect. What emotional story are we telling?" As he spoke, the team exchanged glances, gauging reactions. They began to brainstorm, offering insights, recalling customer stories that had touched them personally. He felt their energy shifting, and Alex recognized the power of collaboration, how each team member's unique voice was essential to forming a compelling narrative. One of his lead developers, Mia, shared a touching account of a user who had turned their struggles into triumphs through the product. The room quieted. Alex could sense the gravity of the moment. "See? We aren't selling just software, we're equipping people to overcome hurdles," he exclaimed, excitement bubbling in his chest. As the discussion deepened, Alex observed an evolving synergy within the group. Ideas flowed more freely with each passing minute. They wondered aloud about how they might employ these genuine stories in their next pitch to investors. Each narrative constructed could establish an authenticity that outshone any mere sales pitch. Yet a small voice in the back of his mind nagged him: could they truly penetrate that aggressive competitor's hold on the market with narratives alone? As they wrapped up the meeting, Alex felt a flicker of hope. They had defined a clearer path forward, something that could potentially reshape their approach to these investor connections. Walking out of the conference room, the mood was charged. A mix of anticipation and lingering doubt remained palpable. Before he reached his office, though, his phone buzzed again. Another email. This one from an industry analyst, a regular commentator on market shifts. The subject read, "Insight request, your competitive edge." His heart raced. What if this analyst was poised to report on the potential upheaval of the market? Would he be prepared to share their story effectively, to bridge the gap between ambition and authenticity? Alex took a deep breath, the stakes rising once more. This was a pivotal moment. The questions loomed large: could their narrative withstand scrutiny? Would the emotional grounding they'd drawn inspire trust? He pushed the door to his office open. Ideas churned in his mind. The time had come to face the reality of their story head-on. As he sat at his desk, fingers hovering above the keyboard, he pondered what his next move would be within this unfolding saga of connection and competition. How could he turn this moment into a game-changer, not just for his team, but for himself? Alex leaned forward, feeling an intoxicating mixture of anxiety and exhilaration. The email from the industry analyst wasn't just a request, it was an invitation to showcase the essence of who they were as a team. Their path forward hinged on this moment, and instead of cowering under pressure, he felt a subtle temptation to seize this opportunity to reshape his identity within the company. He clicked open the email, his eyes scanning every line as if it were a precious manuscript. The analyst had a keen reputation, known for offering insights that could propel a narrative into the spotlight or bury it in irrelevance. With a steady hand, Alex began typing a response, his mind racing. What if he could extract something more profound from their story? Something that transcended mere business jargon and ventured into the realm of human connection? "Thank you for reaching out," he typed, pausing to picture how their story might resonate with the analyst's audience. "I believe we have embarked on a transformative journey that connects our innovations to the real-life challenges our customers face." As he wrote, the unease from earlier ebbed, replaced by determination that surged through him like electricity. In the midst of composing, Alex was struck by a thought. They had shared stories in the recent team meeting, but it wasn't just good enough to highlight the challenges. What if they showcased not only how their product helped, but also the fire of personal growth it ignited within their customers? He added this angle to his response, a subplot that could elevate their narrative into something gripping. After hitting send, he leaned back in his chair, feeling a strange mix of liberation and burden. The heavy investments of external expectations melded with pressures of self-expectation as he filled his calendar with preparatory tasks. He organized a follow-up meeting with the marketing team, eager to refine these ideas into a coherent message that could stand the scrutiny. The moment he entered the team meeting, the familiar buzz enveloped him. This time around, his enthusiasm radiated from him like warmth, igniting energy among his coworkers. "What if," he proposed, "we turned our focus not just on the product, but on the people behind the product? Let us dive deeper into those triumphs and struggles our users face. Let us tell their stories." His colleagues, visibly intrigued, began tossing ideas back and forth. Mia revisited her earlier anecdote, infusing it with greater detail about the individual's journey. Alex encouraged everyone to peel back the layers of these narratives, to nurture a story steeped in authenticity. As layers unfolded with each contribution, a camaraderie began to solidify, a shared commitment to rewrite their identity in this competitive landscape. Yet, hidden beneath the excitement, doubt began to flicker. Could this authentic approach genuinely shift perceptions in a saturated market? As they fleshed out these narratives, a chilling question gripped him: what if the analyst wasn't interested in depth, but rather in polished salesmanship? A pause fell over the room, the air thick with collective anticipation and uncertainty. Alex's internal conflict grew. He had tasted the thrill of vulnerability but also saw the peril of revealing too much. Feeling the weight of responsibility press solidly against his chest, he firmly announced, "Let us gather more user testimonials, hear directly from them about what our product has changed in their lives." His resolve surged as he dictated the next steps. With clear deadlines and expectations, the conversation pivoted from one of uncertainty to determination. However, the underlying weight of his personal stakes lingered. Could he transform not only the narrative of the company but also his own professional trajectory? As the meeting concluded, Alex found himself wrestling with the reality that this was more than just strategic development, it was a bold step into the murky waters of self-discovery. With new narratives shaping before him, he sensed one more layer forming. One that would not only redefine their corporate identity but also challenge his intrinsic notions of vulnerability in the professional sphere. With a mix of excitement and dread, he prepared to send his next message, this time to the analyst, bracing himself for the reaction this authentic narrative might invoke. Could the authenticity breathe life into their story, or would it just leave him standing exposed in the relentless current of professional scrutiny? As he opened the message draft, his fingers poised, his heart pounded with the knowledge that his next step would be critical. What direction would he choose next, and was he ready to embrace the uncertainty it would bring? The weight of expectation clung to Alex like a second skin as he read through the draft for the third time. Each line bared a piece of his soul. The tension between vulnerability and his desire for validation swirled in his gut. He exhaled slowly, grappling with the conflict ignited by his commitment to authenticity. Sending the email felt like breaking a dam, unleashing torrents of potential consequences. Would the analyst appreciate this authentic narrative? Would this choice mark a shift away from the polished persona expected in the industry? Or would it be a critical misstep, leaving him open to scrutiny and doubt? After deliberation, he clicked send. The confirmation chime echoed in his office, a jarring reminder of the leap he had just taken. He felt an odd mixture of relief and panic mingling in the air around him. The void created by uncertainty left him momentarily paralyzed. With a sense of purpose, Alex stood up from his desk and walked into the bustling office space, ready to share and inspire. He sought out Mia first. Let's brainstorm more about the user testimonials. We need to find the heart of these stories, he suggested, his voice steady, masking the underlying tremors of his rapidly beating heart. Mia's eyes lit up at the prospect. I talked to Sam from customer support yesterday. He mentioned a user whose life was completely transformed by our product. It might be a good place to start. As they pieced together the testimonials, Alex felt a shift within himself, a burgeoning sense of direction and authenticity. Each story they uncovered resonated profoundly, drawing out struggles and triumphs that shaped their users. For the first time, he recognized the potential of these narratives as more than selling points. They embodied hope and perseverance, emotions that could ignite the hearts of their audience. Later that week, during a lunch break at a nearby cafe, Alex surveyed his reflection in the window. He appeared different, somehow more resolute. This journey into narrative restructuring began peeling away layers of apprehension, unearthed fears, and insecurities that had long dictated his professional conduct. He turned inward, contemplating what made up his self-image, the mind he had successfully crafted around industry acumen and analysis. But beyond that facade lay a deeper truth: his struggle to embrace vulnerability in such a competitive landscape. The anxiety about being perceived as inexperienced or naive nagged at him. Yet, it was impossible to ignore the remnants of empowerment coursing through him, sparked by the genuine connections he sought to create. As he returned to the office, a flicker of determination planted itself within him. It was time to confront this unsettling fear head-on. Gathering his team for yet another meeting, he could sense the anticipation among his colleagues. What we're doing is going to challenge the very nature of how we approach our work, he began, pacing slightly to channel his nervous energy. But being transparent allows us to forge authentic connections, not just with our audience but also with each other. He paused, his gaze shifting between familiar faces. I need you all to stay involved in this process. Let's critique each other's work, refining it to the point where it shines with honesty and integrity. However, even as he spoke, doubts crested within him. Would this commitment to authenticity foster genuine growth among them, or were they teetering on the edge of a precipice that could plunge them into professional oblivion? That night, as old habits kicked in, Alex stayed late at the office, poring over the feedback and testimonials. He felt the moment of truth looming ever closer. A click on the company message board startled him. An email notification from the industry analyst had arrived. He paused, the weight of impending judgment heavy on his mind. This was it, the moment to discover whether authenticity would be their lifeline to survival or a slippery slope toward professional undoing. Would this pivotal point reveal more than he had anticipated? With the opportunity for greatness or failure at his fingertips, he braced himself to dive into the unknown. The evening air loomed heavy with anticipation as Alex stared at the email from the industry analyst. It felt like the culmination of every challenge, every doubt he had faced since his journey began. He hesitated momentarily, and then, with resolved determination, he clicked open the message. "Thank you for your insights, Alex. We've thoroughly reviewed your proposal," the analyst wrote. With every phrase, Alex felt his anxiety rise, intertwining with a thread of hope. "We appreciate the authenticity you've injected into your narrative. However, we need to know how you plan to operationalize these values into actionable results." A wave of realization washed over him. The analyst wasn't dismissive, but rather intrigued by the direction he had courageously taken. Alex's heart raced as he reread the email, feeling the door creak open for a potential alliance grounded in shared values if he could prove that authenticity indeed translated into tangible success. He knew what he had to do. This was his opportunity to solidify the internal transformation he'd embarked upon and to show that genuine leadership paired with emotional connection could yield significant results. Meeting with his team the next day, he unveiled the feedback. "This is a pivotal moment for us," he began, excitement lacing his voice. "The analyst is ready to engage, but we need a concrete plan that reflects our commitment to authenticity mixed with strategic foresight. Let us bring together the emotional narratives we crafted with measurable outcomes." Inspired by the opportunity, the team rallied, believing in the vision they were shaping. Alex felt a steady rise in confidence as the conversations flourished. Interactive brainstorming sessions revealed a wealth of potent ideas converging into a focused strategy. They built a framework integrating user testimonials as case studies in their business proposals that would exemplify the transformation spurred by their products. They set measurable goals linked to user engagement and satisfaction, morphing their narrative into a robust argument for investment and growth. Days rolled into nights as they organized their findings meticulously, each member embracing their role with newfound vigor. Alex was astounded by the transformation within himself and his team. It was as if collective resilience had been ignited by the promise of their authentic narrative. As they finalized their proposal, Alex's pride burgeoned. This wasn't merely a project, it was a reflection of everything he had fought against, the fears he had overcome, and the connections he had forged. The words humanize and connect adorned their presentation like a badge of honor, guiding every aspect of their work towards integrity. When presentation day arrived, Alex stood in front of the investors with his team, steadier than ever. He recalled the anxiety that had once gripped him while presenting. This was different. No longer just a figurehead, he was a shared voice of a unified effort. "Today, we don't just pitch numbers, we showcase the journey of our users and how we can cultivate continued growth together," he stated, embodying the authenticity he had fought hard to achieve. He presented evidence from customer stories intertwined with strategic goals, demonstrating the potency of their emotional narrative paired with financial viability. With each slide, he sensed the investors becoming increasingly engaged, their previous skepticism wading into interest. Finally, he concluded with conviction. "Investing in us isn't just support for a product, it's an investment in real growth that emerges from understanding and valuing the human experience," he declared, conviction resonating in every word. As the final slides faded, Alex held his breath, waiting for the response. Minutes passed, and he finally caught sight of nodding heads, murmurs of approval swirling in the air. The lead investor broke the silence. "This new direction, it's compelling. We want to support you on this journey." The words hit him like a wave of warmth. He felt the culmination of his efforts seep into his bones. Recognition swept through him as he realized, it wasn't simply the deal, it was the affirmation of his transformation, the realization that he had built a bridge from vulnerability to strength. With the proposal secured, Alex returned to the office buoyed by a sense of belonging, achievement ringing through him. The anxiety that once haunted his every decision had dissipated into confidence, a newfound conviction in leading with authenticity that not only inspired his team but bridged connections with investors as well. Facing his colleagues, he celebrated their hard-won success, understanding thoroughly that their journey together had instilled in him a profound sense of growth. He saw them not just as co-workers, but as collaborative partners in transformation, a committed family bound by shared values and collective ambition. From that day, he wore his new identity with pride. The whispers of uncertainty that had once clouded his judgment had no further power over him. Instead, he emerged as a true leader, a blueprint for authenticity, vulnerability, and resilience in the modern marketplace. In embracing transformation, he had woven the tapestry of his narrative not just for his company but for himself. Every challenge had been reframed as an opportunity, every connection as a building block toward success. As he looked toward the future, one resounding thought crystallized in his mind: the most powerful narratives are those grounded in authenticity, and in leading with integrity. He had not only rebuilt his company, he had achieved a profound personal metamorphosis. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive emotional stories that empower us all. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for these journeys of transformation. Comment your reactions and theories about Alex's remarkable ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's inspire together.